how do you approach writing for horror differently? Because it feels like the Wild West. It feels like you can do anything, and sometimes that's amazing, and sometimes you talked about those limits actually make it better. So how do you treat that differently, or what fun do you find in that? Just kind of a big broad talk about scoring for horror in general.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have loved my career in horror. I didn't initially intend to go into horror movies. I mean, I didn't really, when I first started scoring films, like I didn't really like think like, oh, what genre do I want to? I just wanted to score films, But I have found a niche, and it's just come naturally out of like I did one horror movie, and somebody saw that, and the friend of a friend, and like it has grown organically. But I obviously like love horror movies. I just came late to the game. I don't have like a kid horror origin of like I snuck down and watched Chucky. My parents, you know what I mean? Like a lot of people have that. So my gotcha horror moment was actually Insidious. So and that's not that long ago. And anyways, to answer your question, what's different? It's so much fun, and I'm so glad that I get to do horror movies because it is just like in a fun, bombastic, big, loud, kind of manic sandbox to play in. Bowing things. I get to use when I am writing for an orchestra, I get to use 20th and 21st century composition techniques that aren't really in vogue for other genres of film. There's a compositional technique called aleatorism or aleatoric music, where you draw shapes and squiggles, and I'm way oversimplifying aleatoric music, but to someone who hasn't taken post-tonal music theory, and you look at a sheet of paper that is aleatoric music, it would look like a bunch of shapes, lines, and squiggles. And then the fun of aleatoric music is, giving that to the performer and having the performer interpret those non-musical shapes, non-traditionally musical shapes into their performance. So that the performance is different every time. And so all my scores are at a different, or at the other place, but like I could show you the musical score to a short film that I had recorded with an orchestra in January. And a lot of it is, and then the violinists, a whole group of them go, and it sounds, it sounds like horror music.
And so each violinist is interpreting that sound shape in their own way. So there's a similar motion and a similar texture, but
not similar notes.
Pitches. Yeah, the pitches are completely different. So it has this weird dissonance to it. Okay, that's really cool.
And so similar to aleatoric music is inside of aleatoric music is tone clusters, which is like on a piano, you might see like this note or this note or this note, but a tone cluster will just be like a square of like a bunch of notes. And so if I were to write a tone cluster for piano, they could interpret it, as long as they're hitting like the range, like I write the range of notes.
So I would like a tone cluster around C4.
Yeah, C4 would be right here.
Okay, yeah, gotcha. Okay, cool.
Yeah. But you do a rhythm, right? So it's super fun. And then there's this
beat over that.
But then that's like the orchestral. Like I learned, one of my favorite classes in college was post-tonal music theory, because like there's other things that like just opened my mind compositionally. Like like you go through like 3 years of music theory, and then you get to post-tonal music theory, and your teacher's like, "Fuck all of it." Like,
don't even worry about it.
Don't even worry about it. There's things called a chance piece and I got to do this as one of my projects. I literally took a sheet of manuscript paper to the bar, and I drank a bunch of beer with my friends, and I threw darts at the dartboard, but I had taped the manuscript paper on the dartboard, and all of the holes became notes. And I wrote the piece by drinking beer with my friends, and I turned it in, and that's awesome. And that's fun. Like there's a famous chance piece. I can't remember who wrote it, but he put manuscript paper out in the rain, and wherever the rain fell was notes. Like, dude, that's so fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So horror lends itself to being able to do this more as opposed to a rom-com or a drama or a Marvel movie.
Exactly. We're playing with not only aleatoric sounds like we talked about, maybe some chants, but atonality, the idea that that's a diatonic scale, but that's atonality. You can't find
tonic.
Yeah.
Tonic.
A pitch center tonic. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in atonality, I get to write. And then outside of all the music theory stuff, there's fun things like these microphones that I commissioned by a French artist. These are what's called piezo microphones or contact microphones. And they are the ones up here are the actual microphones. And then these are additions that I can put onto the microphone. So let's see if I can get a little demonstration of something. I want to break the box. I don't have my thing, but essentially
you need to attach it to something. Correct?
So there's an instrument cable there that you plug in, and then there's a piezo microphone which is connected to these two magnets here, and you put the string on top and then you bow the string and you can put it through whatever effects you want. It just sounds wild. You can see this, the reason the spring is on this one is because I'm using it on the movie I'm working on now. And I posted a reel on my Instagram of what it sounds like through all the effects. And it's just wild. And you get to just have fun. I did a movie about it, a movie that's coming out, having its premiere next weekend. I don't know where it's going to go. Maybe I don't know where it's going to stream. It'll probably stream somewhere, but they're also trying to get a physical release. It's called Tenants. Yeah. And I just early on had the idea, it's not really featured in a way that you would notice, but I used a lot of metal. I recorded myself hitting pipes on the ground and then would use them percussively throughout because it takes place in an apartment building. So I was trying to think ways that I can have. I'm always looking for ways, not just as a gimmicky, Beehive violin thing. Cause I think if you didn't know about the Beehive violin, you wouldn't hear it and think, oh, that sounds different.
Clearly
it's fun.
There's a honeycomb in that.
Right. I think it's fun. It's when I look for stuff like that, I'm going to bang pipes together and use them percussively, play iron pipes on this score. It's more of a way for me to access the film and a way to access fun and play with the film than it is about the gimmick of this takes place in an apartment building, so we should bang on pipes. It's more for me to oh, this will be fun for me, and I'll get to have a day in the studio where I bang pipes on the concrete floor and see what that sounds like.
I mean, yeah, it still feels with your idea of pipes in an apartment building or the Beehive. Yeah, there's a gimmick side to it, but it also feels there's something thematically appropriate about it. And even if it doesn't come through in an overt way, it still influences the listener, I would think. Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely not out of the wall. I'm not saying oh, Tenet, a movie about an apartment building. Let's use the bee, a violin with beehives in it. Right.
Right.
It still has a thematic thing that is fun for me and an access. I see it as an access point. Because
that's really cool.
To me, I mean, not just to me, to the English language, the active verb for music is to play. We say that we play music. I mean, we can listen to music too, but the active verb, listening is active too, but we play music, we play the piano, we play the guitar. Do you play the cello? And so I'm just always looking for ways to play and have fun in this because, I don't know.
So this leads well into I think what will be our last question of the night. Do you try to find a unique sound for each project? And I think sort of yes. Trying to play
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I find like a unique sound for every project, because I think if you listened to Psycho Storm Chaser and then the more recent movie that I did for that same director, Tenants, I think you would see a through line in like my style and preferences in how I write for the orchestra and how I craft a moment. So I don't think like, to me, a unique sound for every project would be like, oh, this one, like, I don't think, I think I maybe try to find a unique access point for every project. And I try not to worry about bringing a new style or a new sound, because sometimes the access point is like musical and not audio recording. It's not always banging on pipes. It might be like, like I did a music for a short film called The Springfield 3. And the access point that got me excited about that short film was writing in 3/4 time signature and writing melodies in with like 3 notes. Right, and then right, it's still the 3 like, how do I access these 3 characters, like the idea of it. I mean, it's a very simple thing that like I feel almost embarrassed to say, but like those are the things that get me excited, get me thinking, get me like, like a little bit of a concept at first, and then it always just kind of flowers and blooms. But like, what's that seed that gets me excited about something that blooms into the tree, and then you kind of like lose that, like when you're watching the movie, you're not like, oh, did he write in 3/4 time on purpose because the name of the movie is Springfield 3? Like hopefully you're not thinking, right, you're just enjoying the movie. So I think that's the answer to Lance's question, is that I don't necessarily try to find a unique sound, but I try to be uniquely inspired by every movie.